Welcome to the No Limits podcast with your host, Lisa Jakovsky, helping families with children with special needs, as well as those who have an interest in autism or psychology in general. Her podcast shares how applied behavior analysis is beneficial to families who live with individuals with special needs. Psychology is discussed along with other relevant topics such as mindfulness and acceptance and commitment therapy. Because Lisa is also an author of the award-winning book series Let's Talk, writers also find her information inspiring and helpful for their own journey. And now, your host of the No Limits podcast, Lisa Jakovsky.
Today, I would like to talk about being an author. I currently am a children's book author of the award-winning series, Let's Talk. There are 2 books, Let's Talk, A Story of Autism and Friendship, and the second book is called Let's Talk, Going to the Zoo. My journey to becoming an author was something that I never fully thought would actually happen. I've wanted to be an author, to write some kind of a book since I was 7 years old. I never really knew what kind of a book I would write. So it's pretty interesting to me that it actually came out to be children's books. When I was younger, I used to write short stories and I used to write mystery stories. That's actually the kind of book that I love to read. I love to read thrillers, mysteries, anything about the supernatural. So it's always been pretty interesting to me that I actually like writing children's books. I would love to write a novel or a longer story, maybe a middle grade book one day. Just need that inspiration. We shall see what happens. I was actually asked by someone who loved my first book to write a book for their child that was a teenager to help them understand autism in a more positive light. And I've had a little bit of an idea of what I can do with it, not too much inspiration, but it'll get there. When I decided to write this book, I was actually inspired when I was at work one day. I was doing in-home ABA, and I had just all of a sudden realized I was seeing the same pattern that, children have a hard time interacting with other children that have the diagnosis of autism. And it just kind of hit me that it would be great to write something that would not only help children who do not have the diagnosis, that are what we call neurotypical, to learn how to interact with these other little ones. And I actually went home and started writing notes. I wrote the book in my notes on my phone and put it all together one weekend. I just sat down and did it. And my journey started from there. It's been a learning process. There's a lot to know, a lot to do, and it's not easy when you do it on your own. But I will say it is very much worth it. When I first started with my first book, I tried doing what's called querying. And that's when you send out a letter to an agent or to a traditional publisher about your book to see if they are interested. And what you have to do is you have to go to the website. You have to make sure that your topic is something they would be interested in. Not all traditional publishers are interested in every topic. So just some food for thought. If you're a writer who wants to get into writing books, whether they're children's books or novels or middle grade or young adult, these are just some things that I went through and I would like to pass along so that you have an idea of where to go. I started querying. I got lots of rejections. And that's the thing. It's okay to get rejected. It just means that wasn't the right thing for you at that time. I got a lot of rejections and I also got a lot of positive feedback. I got some positive comments too, which was really, really awesome. Even though I would get rejected, it was still amazing to get this positive feedback from publishing house. To even get an answer sometimes too is pretty amazing. A lot of these publishers you'll see actually say, if you don't hear from us in 2 months, then most likely we are not going to go with your book. So that being said, it's actually still pretty awesome to even get a response. And I got so many that I just decided to look into other ways of publishing and found that there's a thing called self-publishing. When you self-publish, you are paying for everything. There's also, I found out once I got my first offer, there's something called hybrid publishing. Hybrid publishing, you have to be very careful. There are some very, very sketchy, shady hybrid publishers out there. So if you receive an offer from a hybrid publisher, and what'll happen is they'll say, congratulations, they'll list out what they do, and then it's going to say, oh, you have to pay this part. They pay for part of publishing, you pay the other part. This ranges from you paying $3,000 to $7,000. At least in my experience, those were the offers I received. Now, to get this offer, I was still very, very happy, very excited. I thought it was amazing. I'm getting an offer. Oh my gosh. So I was still very, very excited. And then I went to do my research and realized some of the hybrid publishers I was getting offers from, because I got multiple, were very sketchy. So if you get an offer from a hybrid publisher, make sure you do your research, read the reviews. Don't just go with the first hybrid publisher and just go with the 10th one. Make sure you do your research. I was very torn between doing an amazing hybrid publisher and self-publishing. And the reason I went with self-publishing was honestly the cost. The hybrid publisher I was looking at and the self-publishing company I went with both had the same kind of amazing reviews, 5 stars, but there's a ginormous difference in price. And I decided to go with self-publishing mainly for that reason. And I will say I am so happy I decided to do that. I'm sure I would have been happy with the hybrid publisher I chose, but I've had the most incredible experience with Blueberry Illustrations. It's been amazing. That's something too you also really have to look into and do your research are illustrators. I did a virtual book festival in June and we discussed illustrators, and the illustrator I went with was very, very affordable, Blueberry Illustrations. And some other authors that were at the festival talked about illustrators that cost much, much more. And it really depends on affordability and what the needs of your book are. There's also Fiverr. Everybody knows this. I would say do your research if you go with somebody on Fiverr. There's also a lot of people on Facebook. There's a lot of groups. I have seen recently in one of my groups that there are some illustrators that will actually scam you by downloading a picture from somebody else's site, pretending they actually can make that illustration. So please make sure you do your research. I did research for a year and a half before I even went with Blueberry Illustrations. If you'd like some information on amazing illustrators, please contact me on my social media. My Facebook page is Books by Lisa Tchaikovsky. It is amazing. And I will absolutely help you when it comes to finding a good illustrator. I actually have a great relationship with an amazing website who just started their own publishing house. They're pretty awesome, called thinkaheadkids.com. Hopefully their founder will be on the show at some point. But they also have amazing illustrators. So, you can always contact me on any of my social media, my website, my email. My email is ljayauthor@gmail.com. I will point you in the right direction of an illustrator that fits not only your books, but also the money that you are able to pay. Once I decided to go with Blueberry, that seemed like really when the fun started. I have said this multiple times in interviews, but I will probably say it forever. It's literally like Christmas getting illustrations. It's really hilarious. I went with Blueberry and I emailed them and we set up actually a payment option because they're not exactly cheap either, but they do have amazing packages and you can make your own package, which I thought was really, really cool. They actually are super responsive. They were able to help me set up a payment package, and they were really great about it. Once we did that, the self-publishing process began. And one of the differences is, and I plan on having an author on this traditionally published talk more about it, but one of the differences I've been told from other authors is that you really get full control over your work. So you're getting to say what every little thing is when it comes to illustrations, with copy editing, with putting the book together. And that's something I've actually really loved. And it would be great to have a traditional publisher down the road, but at the same time, I love the fact that I'm able to make everything me. I think it would be different to have a traditional publisher and probably amazing too. But I hope that, when that time comes, if and when it does, because I'm always the optimist, I hope one day it does, that I would be able to have some kind of control over the illustrations at least too. So what I would do is they would send me dates of when they're going to finish work and the work that they needed. And I would send them my author bio, my picture, dedication if I wanted, summary of the book, descriptions of illustrations. And then they would meet every deadline and send me sketches, which was incredibly cool. And they would then send me color in the sketches once I approved the sketch. It was very rare I had to send a sketch back with feedback. They did an absolute incredible job. When they would send me sketches, that's the part that was literally like Christmas. It was so cool to see my books come to life. And Blueberry has an amazing website with all these different kinds of illustrations. So you get to really choose which kind of tone you want to your illustration. It's pretty awesome. And once all that was approved, then it got copy edited. And they were really good about copy editing. And I mean, they go through every little detail and send you suggestions. And it's up to you if you take the suggestion or not. But it's pretty awesome. In all honesty, there wasn't too many suggestions, but I love the ones that they did send me. And then one of the coolest things that I loved was when they put everything together and they sent me the proof. And the proof is really like an ebook version of your book. And the way they did my first book, if you haven't read it, they actually put flower borders on each page on the top and bottom. And the pages were like a light pinkish orange background. It's really pretty. And that was all them. And it actually worked out amazing. So they put pink on the front of the cover too, where they're going to the pool. And when I think of my books, I think of them in colors. So the first one came out pink. Second one, I asked them to put more orange in because that's how I think of it. The third one's going to have more blue in it because that's how I think of that, and so on. You'll have to wait to see what book 4, 5, and 6. But, it was really amazing that they did that and did it on their own. And I was interested to see how they would do it with book 2. And they actually put animals in it to go with the theme. So I thought that was pretty awesome. Once everything was published, that's when the marketing and the real work began. And that's really where the learning experience has been too. I definitely had more knowledge with putting out my second book than I did my first for marketing. And I got very lucky that many people in my life bought book 1 and promoted it. And I sold as much of book 1 as I did. Book 2 is doing amazing as well, but I definitely have more marketing stuff for book 2. And what I can say with that is do your research, do your research when it comes to marketing, join Facebook groups. It really is kind of a second job when it comes to that part of this whole process. It is really fun though. I feel like over time, my marketing has really increased and it's led to networking and these amazing relationships that led to this podcast, and all these different things that are pretty incredible. I'm going to go into more detail about marketing in another episode, but my best advice when it comes to that is do your research. Do the best you can to find different things, try different things, network, get your book out there as best as you can. I know we're in a pandemic still right now. And, not everywhere is able to do things in person, or not everybody has the time to do certain things. But that's the cool thing about marketing. I made a list. I made a Microsoft Word document that really discusses all the things that I love from marketing. That way I can go back and be like, okay, this website I want to go back to, this person I want to go back to, this book tour I want to do again, all these little things. Also, some other things you can do is review books. When you review books, you're helping other authors, and then maybe not to do a review swap, but maybe there's other authors that you haven't reviewed that want to review yours. So, when I talk about like these different doors opening, just besides the networking, there's other things that you can do once you become an author. You can really build your craft besides